Welcome to SportsBeat KC, the Kansas City Star Sports podcast. On this episode, we're talking college football and specifically the University of Missouri Tigers. Plenty of excitement surrounding Mizzou football this season, and for good reason. The Tigers bring back quarterback Brady Cook and wide receiver Luther Burden, along with plenty of other offensive weapons from a team that finished 11-2 and defeated Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. If the defense can come together under a new coordinator, this might be a special season in Columbia. Top 4 in the SEC and possibly a spot in the inaugural 12-team college football playoff? Don't bet against it. Columnist Sam McDowell joins me in talking about the Tigers, and after our chat, you'll hear from head coach Eli Drinkwitz. He met with a small group of reporters in Dallas recently to discuss the team, and we'll play that interview session in its entirety. Let's get started talking Mizzou football with Sam McDowell. First of all, are you watching the Olympics?
I've seen some of them. You know, it's just crazy how I don't know if Karen's the same way, but you know, my wife suddenly decides that this is the time to get into sports. It's just during this 2-week segment. And so, like, she's got my kids watching it. Like, I woke up the other day about, 8 a.m., and all of a sudden, all three of them are glued to sports and watching the TV. I'm just like, what's going on here?
You know, because of the time difference, Paris is, 6 hours ahead of us in Kansas City. You know, we watched the taped version packaged of the coverage in primetime, and our household's the same way. It's a sporting event that my wife and I can watch together and both be interested in it.
Yeah.
She'll watch the Royals with me, but she doesn't care much about it. So it's fun from that aspect. But I do want to know who wins. So while I'm watching the packaged, highlights, I know how they have.
Yeah.
My wife does not. So, one thing I was thinking about the Olympics, it's different for me, and it would be true of our buddy Vahe Gregorian just because of our age. Vahe, of course, is a big Olympics fan. He's covered a bunch of them.
Yeah.
When we were young, you got one NFL game of the week on TV, you had one baseball game of the week on TV, one college football game. But when the Olympics came around, you had sports on every night, and that was such a big deal.
Yeah, that's cool.
When we were young. And I don't know if it hits the same way for later generations the way it did for us. But anyway, I'm into the Olympics. I love it. I'm a big Team USA. I can't wait for track and field. That's my favorite sport.
It's almost like it's overload a little bit. Like, it's hard to keep track of. You mentioned the NFL. When everyone's playing. You know who plays the Thursday night game, who plays the Monday night game, maybe who has the buys. So everyone else is playing on Sunday. It's difficult in the Olympics, especially with the time difference of saying, okay, Team USA basketball plays at 10 a.m. The women's soccer team is at noon or 1 o'clock. It can be difficult to track. We're up here in St. Joe, and we've had the Olympics on almost every day when we're up here, and
right.
It's a different sport every day that's on the TV.
Exactly. And the only time in 4 years you ever watch, mountain biking.
Yeah.
Or water polo.
Yeah. Well, I watched ping pong the other day, so yeah.
As you mentioned, we are up here at St. Joe, and we're here to talk Missouri football. We should have got Nick Bolton to sit down with us and get his thoughts. He is the Missouri connection to the Chiefs. I'm not missing another one, right? He is the lone Mizzou Tiger on the Chiefs.
He's all that I can think of.
Yeah.
That's out here. I'm trying to think if maybe they had some undrafted guys, but no, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think that's right. And he is, of course, the middle linebacker who's going to be up for a little contract extension.
Yeah.
With this season, I'm sure his folks are talking to their folks and all that. But here, let's talk about Mizzou and what the expectations are for Eli Drinkwitz's program coming off an 11-2 season in which they defeated Ohio State in the Cotton Bowl. You covered that game, as I recall.
I was at the Cotton Bowl. Yeah,
that was a pretty big deal for Mizzou to win that game.
Yeah, it was. I mean, they were, especially because it became suddenly kind of a high pressure situation for them. Which I don't know how many non-playoff bowl games you would say that about, but they played their guys in that game, and Ohio State didn't. And so suddenly, you thought, well, if you lose this game, you lost to a team that wasn't really playing its starters. Like, you kind of have to win this game all of a sudden. And it was a really ugly first half. But I do think that type of stuff can carry momentum, especially in the era of transfer portal, to where your first recruiting is just recruiting your own guys. And you see guys like Johnny Walker, I think, was the defensive MVP of that game. And, like, I think that stuff could potentially have an impact going into an offseason, into a summer, and then into a camp.
I know I got a feeling when I was down at SEC Media Days in Dallas a couple of weeks ago that they're feeding off of that success, not just of the bowl game, but of the way the season unfolded, the 10-2 regular season. Beat everybody on the schedule except for LSU at home, and they went down to Georgia and lost. A couple of very close games.
Yeah.
But it was an outstanding season for Missouri, and expectations remain high for 2024, especially with the quarterback returning. When you bring your quarterback back, Brady Cook, automatically you think this team should be successful. It's just it's true of the two others in our area, with Jalen Daniels at Kansas and Avery Johnson at Kansas State, although to a lesser extent K-State. But Brady Cook really sort of changed his profile from a player who fans wasn't sure was the right choice to a player who led them to a victory over Ohio State, and is now. I don't think he's a preseason Heisman. I haven't seen him on any watch lists, but I think he's in a position to have a good season. And with the weapons he has at wide receiver, Missouri has to feel good about him in that position.
Yeah, it's got to be a weird scenario for him as camp opens, that it's the first time in his career that he hasn't been competing to win this job. And I just think that could do wonders for somebody too, because look, Brady Cook has spent most of his life in this underdog role, and this is the first time that he's not really going to have that. So on the one hand, like, there is some motivation to win a job and go into camp and feeling like you got to go out and win the job, but I just think there's also something just to being comfortable and knowing you're the guy, and then the team looks at you as the fact that you're the guy, and I mean teammates too, and all of a sudden you're the leader, maybe more so than you could be as, well, we don't even know if you're going to be the starter this year. So I think just having that question lifted from his equation going into camp means a lot, but also he took a major step forward as a player last year. Like, he legitimately earned that job. And the biggest thing is, it's interesting being up here in St. Joe, because the Chiefs are trying to do this year what Mizzou did last year. And I think, knowing those two teams, everyone would say, well, how could the Chiefs be taking anything like – but the Mizzou last year unlocked the deep ball. And it was what they struggled with Brady Cook's first year, to the question we were just like, can the quarterback throw it, though? If we sit here and say, Joe, there's no question this quarterback can throw it. It's how teams defend him. But since Brady Cook proved that is part of his arsenal a year ago, you do wonder if they're going to encounter this, okay, but now teams might be game planning for that. So now what's the next step? What is the equation? And, Luther Burden's a pretty good answer for a lot of that stuff.
No doubt about it. That got unlocked last year, Cook to Burden. And I mentioned that SEC Media Days happened a couple of weeks ago. At that event, writers are asked to pick an all-SEC team. And when that team was released, there's three teams, first, second, and third team, offense and defense, and only one Missouri player was mentioned on any of those three ballots. Luther Burden was first team all preseason SEC. I thought that was, I'm sure, can be used as motivation inside the locker room at Missouri. But you're right, Luther Burden, special player, 5-star recruit, and in some, if you start looking at mock drafts, NFL drafts for 2025, in some places he's the first wide receiver off the board. Undersized guy, but not unlike what we see every day here at Chiefs camp with Xavier Worthy of Texas.
Yeah, it's interesting to mention the Chiefs again, but like, Luther Burden is the exact type of player that would fit into a Chiefs offense, but I think he fits into a lot of offenses. But he does a lot of the underneath stuff. He runs after the catch really well, so the objective is to get him in space quickly. He will run the deep ball, but I don't think that's what they're going to primarily use him for. Looking at some stats here, he was what a lot of elite of the evaluators in the NFL look at it, and receivers is just yards per route run. Like how many yards are you getting for every route that you run? How productive are you on just a route per route basis, even when the ball isn't thrown your way? And he's fourth in all of college last year, like one spot ahead of Marvin Harrison Jr. in that stat last year. Malik Neighbors is number one. But they also rank him really highly in just receiving in general. His yards after catch per reception is fourth in all of college. Like, he's a guy that you just get the ball in his hands as quickly as possible. But I do think it's interesting, like, what else do they do around him? Because what you just said is exactly right. Like, NFL teams are aware of him. SEC teams are aware of him too. So that is one of the reasons you try and get him the ball behind the line of scrimmage before there can be serious coverage on him. But like, Mizzou's going to need some other guys to step up in the wide receiver room for sure.
Theo Weiss is one of those guys, the Oklahoma transfer, who's back. The offensive line should be good. Running back will be interesting for Missouri because Cody Schrader has moved on, and the incredible story and season that Cody Schrader had last year, where he led the nation in rushing yards per game, and
he's on two teams now. You see that?
No. So that's right. That's
he's
right.
in 49ers camp.
But he was the draft pick of the
St. Louis Battlehawks. Because you can draft guys that I think you're kind of anticipating might not make it onto a 53-man roster. And look, after the draft, a lot of us thought Cody Schrader might be a guy that could come to the Chiefs because we're still not exactly sure, okay, who is the third running back? But with Cody Schrader, we thought, well, he can catch well, and that seems to be – and so I'm interested to see what the 49ers think of him because he might not excel at exactly anything, but he doesn't really have a lot of weaknesses either. But at the college level, like that's a pretty big hole to replace for them. And I know you know more about the potential replacements than I do, but I also think, like, his attitude, I thought the team fed off of as well.
Indeed. I thought he was a great tone setter for Missouri. They would use him a lot early in a game and have success. And I just thought that put opponents on their heels. Yeah. And Missouri was able to take full advantage of that. Yeah. So Missouri's got a couple of transfers in the backfield. Sun Belt players, Appalachian State and Georgia Southern, represented in the backfield. You'll hear Eli Drinkwitz talk about them after Sam and I finish talking. So I think the offense is going to be terrific. I think it's going to be one of the better ones in the SEC. For Missouri, we're looking at on the defensive side, and a couple things of note here. They lost 6 players went in the NFL draft, one short of a school record. 5 of them were defensive players. Yeah. They had a terrific defense a year ago.
2 of them first round, right?
Yeah. Darius Robinson was one.
Yeah.
Did Rakestraw or Chris Abrams drain? I don't know if another one was in the first.
Rakestraw was 61 overall to the Lions. Let's see where Chris Abrams drain. I think he was deeper into it, wasn't he?
Yeah, I think so. And
fifth round pick, yeah.
And then Hopper, the linebacker, went later as well. It was outstanding. And as what happened, this happens quite often. When you have an outstanding season, your defensive coordinator becomes marketable and went off to LSU. So new defensive coordinator for Missouri. A lot of new faces on the defensive side. So to me, that'll be the question for the Tigers going into the season is, can they, I think they can score with people. Can they prevent scoring?
Yeah, I think that the optimistic viewpoint of that would be that a lot of those guys we just mentioned that got drafted, I mean, Darius Robinson, the most notable, also the first-round pick there, they grew within the system themselves. Like, a year earlier, Darius Robinson is a 4th or 5th round pick. Then he works his way up to a first-round pick, so he developed while he was at Missouri. And a lot of these other guys have a similar story to where they got definitively better once they arrived at Mizzou. And so I think that's the optimistic viewpoint to say that there could be some guys on this year's defense that maybe take a same route to where they could take a clear step forward when the team is, like you said. I mean, their defense carried them in some of those games last year.
new to college football this year is a 12-team playoff. And I'd be shocked if the SEC didn't get at least 4 teams in. Missouri, I think, was preseason number 6 in the SEC poll. I think it went Georgia, Texas, Alabama, LSU, Ole Miss, and then Missouri, I think, or Tennessee's in there as well somewhere. But at any rate, I think Missouri has put itself in a position to be able to think about a possible college football playoff appearance in the first year of the 12-team bracket. How cool would that be?
Yeah. I mean, that's what's going to be fascinating to follow about college football for us is I guess I would venture to say that I think one of our 3 teams gets in. And they all at least enter the season like thinking that is within the realm of possibility. With Missouri, you and I were looking at their schedule before this started, and like it's there for them. You mentioned Tennessee; they're 7th on that list, right behind Missouri as far as the predicted order of finish. You look at the SEC, and I wonder what Oklahoma thinks about moving to a conference where they're projected to finish 8th in the conference.
Right.
But like the schedule's kind to them this year that it makes it a legitimate possibility to where they take care of their own. But really, like, look, Missouri got a lot better last year. But when you look at their last 2 years, they lost all their close games 2 years ago.
Oh, my gosh. I covered both of the games that they had no business losing.
Yeah.
The one at Auburn where they fumbled through the end zone, and then the Tennessee or the Kentucky game at home where
the blocked punt.
Well, roughing the kicker.
Punter, yeah. But, like, they lose all those close – like, a year later they win some close games. The
K-State game was a
the
huge
K-State game with a
for them.
61-yard field goal, the Florida game with third and whatever.
Third and forever.
15, 18. So, like, my point is there's probably a happy middle there between both seasons. Like, they're going to have that sort of season again, I think, where the close games favor them.
Let's hear from Missouri head coach Eli Drinkwitz heading into his 5th year with the Tigers. This interview with reporters from the state took place in a conference room at a Dallas hotel in mid-July. Early in the session, Drinkwitz refers to Ryan Russell. He's Missouri's executive director of athletic performance, overseeing such programs as strength and conditioning and nutrition. Let's get started with Eli Drinkwitz.
Thankful to be here today. Obviously, there was a storm in Columbia and Jeff City when we were trying to fly out, and appreciate our pilots risking all of our lives to get here today so we could meet with the media. So I hope y'all will ask some good questions because we feel fortunate to be on the ground.
Coach, coming into this season, I don't think the expectations for the Tigers have ever been higher. How do you guys go about managing those expectations and making sure that the goal stays the same?
It's very easy. Expectations are external, standards are internal. And we're not really worried about outside expectations of us. We're worried about the standards that we've created within the building. And I attribute Ryan Russell for developing an elite edge standard with the way we operate on a daily basis. We clearly have a standard of what our goal is for our program, which is chase 2 dreams, develop an elite edge, and play for championships. We have 4 core values that are standard. Always compete, build trust and respect, do more than what's expected, enjoy the journey. And if we'll stick to those standards, then we'll have the success we want to have. If we're worried about outside noise and expectations, external factors, then that's a recipe for disappointment.
I was asking Brady about obviously people's decision to stay in Missouri and represent their home state. He was talking about the impact maybe last season had on choosing Missouri. What kind of impact do you feel like that season had?
Yeah, I think it just restored the pride in the black and gold. It restored the pride in the state. I spoke about this on the main stage. I attribute a lot of our success to the belief that the state legislature had, the belief that our administration had to make us a very accessible NIL institution, to our fans donating to that money. And in return, they've gotten to our football program has gotten to be a great window to the university, an AAU accredited institution, one of only 66, I believe, in the country. We have the largest nuclear research reactor in the country. Those are things that most people don't know about our great institution in our state, and now they're proud to understand it. We're not just the state that's home to Brad Pitt and Sheryl Crow, although we welcome both of y'all back, and please come back for a game. We want to understand that we are a great education, we're a great state, and hopefully our football programs restored that pride.
Coach, you've had players like Cody Schrader, obviously excel. You had Luke Bauer had that fake punt moment last year. When the NCAA is talking about limiting roster sizes, for one, how do you feel about that and potentially walk-ons, not being a part of college football as much anymore? And then secondly, how does that impact recruiting high school players since there'd be limited roster spots?
Yeah, that's one of the most complex issues I think that's occurred. And you're talking to a guy who faced COVID, NIL, transfer portal, unlimited transfers. The roster limit conversation is so difficult to comprehend and process because of the importance of walk-ons to universities. To me, a walk-on is the exact replica of the American dream. Somebody who believes in themselves, bets on themselves, is willing to put in the hard work in hope of a reward, and when you earn it, you earn it. And that's the story of Cody Schrader and Luke Bauer and Chris Cray and Logan Muckey, all guys that have worked really hard to earn opportunities. And so hopefully in this new settlement era and whatever we figure out, there'll still be a place for the American dream to occur within a football program.
Eli, has the SEC settled on a number of what that roster cap would be?
We have not. There was a lot of discussion down in Destin about it, but now it's really in the hands of, I believe, the conference commissioners and the lawyers. So I think it's something that has to be accepted by every Power Five, conference commissioner. So there's discussions that are much higher level than me on that.
Is there a number you're comfortable with, like no more walk-ons, but we could live with X?
Yeah, we've been very stern within the SEC that 110 is a number that we feel very strongly about.
A big rivalry that returns this season is Missouri and Oklahoma, obviously dating back all the way to the Big Eight. They faced off 96 times in the program's histories. What do you see coming with meeting 97, and what does this rivalry returning mean to college football as a whole? Yeah,
this summer I read Respectable Roughnecks, which is the story of the 1960 Missouri football program, and really didn't understand a lot of the history of Mizzou football until reading that book and understanding the rivalry with Oklahoma and the Big Eight. And so excited for our fan base to get to go against them again. Obviously, Oklahoma's had a tremendous amount of success against our university, and so obviously we're a lot different than we were in the past, and so it should be a fun, unique challenge.
When you look at the leaders that obviously departed after last year, Darius Robinson, Cody Schrader, how do you expect to see some guys, step up, and is there anyone specifically you're looking to maybe step up into that kind of role?
Yeah, honestly, I think that's the question that is the most challenging for us to answer, because we lost some immensely talented players. There's no doubt about it. But more importantly, we lost great leaders. We lost captains, 4 captains drafted, and really all of them, I think, in my mind, were captains, leaders of our football team. I'm not worried about replacing the talent. We're worried about replacing the competitive character, the competitive spirit, the physical toughness that each one of those guys presented on a daily basis, the buy-in that those guys had for themselves but demanded from everybody else. And so that's really going to be the challenge. I think, my expectation is that the guys here that we brought here, Christian Williams, Luther, Brady, Chuck Hicks, Tristan, Johnny Walker, Joseph Charleston, Dalen Carnell, Theo Weiss, Mookie Cooper, Armand Membu, Connor Tolleson, Cameron Johnson, those guys, Luke Bauer, reflect the leadership that they know it takes in order to be successful.
Last one.
A quote that you said in the main room that kind of stuck with me and I wanted to get more into is To me, play callers are a type of artist, and each artist paints its own picture.
Yeah.
What is the picture that Corey Batoon is painting, and what is he shaping the death row defense to be?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's exactly that. It's the way those guys see the game, right? Everybody sees the game a little differently, and they want to dictate the game on their terms. I think Corey is very analytical in his approach. I think he's very good at understanding what other teams are trying to do against him, and he's trying to stop that, make you play left-handed, so to speak. And he does that multiple ways. He does that with pressure. He does that with coverage. He does that with multiple fronts. So each game will be a unique challenge, and he'll figure out what what's the best approach to do that. I think the best artists figure out what their team's strengths are and how can I be adaptable to my strengths to take away the other team's strengths.
That will do it for this episode. Thanks to producer Randy Mason for putting together the show, and to our SportsBeat KC production staff of Monty Davis, Jeff Rosen, and Scott Chasen. Tip of the cap to Sam McDowell for sharing his insights. Hey, we appreciate you spending time with us. Let us know what you think of the show with a review and rating. We'll be back soon with another SportsBeat KC, where we talk sports in and around Kansas City.